Kicks 105.5 WKXH. Good morning. I'm JJ. It is Wednesday, February 15th at 7:50 and 24 degrees outside. I'll have your full weather forecast coming up in just a little bit, but right now we're going to talk with Mike Barrett from the Barrett Insurance Agency. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning.
How was your Valentine's Day?
It was, you know what? I'm so proud of myself. I got the card the day before Valentine's Day, not the morning of or the afternoon of, and I got her Valentine's Day gift was ordered, and it took a little while to come, but it arrived yesterday, so that was good too. So yes, I didn't hit it all out of the park necessarily, but at least I didn't strike out. So hey, no, it was good. It was good. How about yours?
It was kind of uneventful.
Yeah. Well, I had a select board meeting last night for the town in Waterford, so that was my big excitement, was a quick dinner with my wife and then hurry up and go to a town event for hours. So good times. Good times.
Okay, so what are we talking about? What are good policies this morning?
Yeah, we haven't really done like an auto insurance 101 in a while. We've talked about shopping for price and so many different things of course, we've had a couple of weeks off between COVID and a bunch of other things for me, so sorry about that. But, what I thought might do is just kind of like a high-level overview of auto insurance. Because, right now we're at a time where people are shopping. And people are shopping because the prices have gone up. I mean, we've gotten word from many of the companies that rates are going to continue to go up. And why is that? Well, we're in a hard market for the first time in my insurance career where companies are having to look at they're not making the money that they need to make to sustain the auto product. So they are, because they're paying out so many claims. So they're having to increase, and the claim payouts are even further impacted by the scarcity of material, labor, delays in repairs. So there's no doubt people are going to be shopping for auto insurance. So what are some of the big things that you need to think about? Make sure you're having your insurance quotes be what you have or better. Don't go less. Don't sacrifice coverage for price. Kind of the wrong way to go about it. We've talked in the past about how the state of Vermont minimum liability for bodily injury per person is $25,000, per accident is $50,000, and then property damage is $10,000. I would never advise those limits. They're too low. Now remember, what's insurance for? It's to protect your assets. So if you got in an accident with a minimum liability in the state of Vermont and you not even have to horrifically injure anybody, but if you injure another party, hit a pedestrian, run into a car full of people and injure them all, that $25,000 per person is going to be eaten up pretty darn quick if they're injured. And guess who's responsible for beyond that? You are. People just assume, well, if I have insurance, I'm covered. Well, no. That's your front line. But your front line can be exhausted. And if that becomes exhausted, you're still in the mix. So make sure you're quoting limits of liability that are appropriate. So, a good starting point is $100,000 bodily injury per person, $300,000 per accident. I like $250,000 bodily injury per person, $500,000 per accident. And believe it or not, you're not going to see a tremendous. If you have a good driving record, and there's not a lot of factors in there, like maybe a hot rod or some kind of high-end vehicle with a high rating, you're probably not going to realize a significant price difference between the minimum liability and more appropriate limits. You will obviously notice a price difference, but is it worth it to you to have that extra layer of protection for $10, $15 more a month? I would expect the answer in most cases would be yes. So if you're shopping for auto insurance, certainly a big thing there. In Vermont, New Hampshire, there's medical payments coverage on an auto policy. That's optional. It's not required by the state, so you have the absolute option to choose whether you have it or not. And then if you do choose it, you can choose the limit. You can go $1,000. You can go up to $100,000 or more, depending on the company you're with. So, if you years ago on your auto insurance that you have now that you're shopping chose a limit of $10,000 or $25,000, make sure that's what you're quoting. Because, again, you're going to be quoting apples to apples to get a better price comparison. Because if you start sacrificing coverage, of course, you're going to realize less cost in the new quoting. Deductibles on your vehicle. Comprehensive is the coverage for fire, theft, vandalism, hitting an animal, glass damage. Some people have $0 glass deductibles built into their policies regardless of what their comprehensive deductible may be. Maybe you have a $100 deductible. Some people have even chosen no deductible in the past. These are all things that, especially now, very few companies offer low deductibles for anything. So you might find the lowest deductible of some companies for comprehensive could be $100 or $250. So that's going to be a difference. And then collision, too. Impact that damages your vehicle that's as a result of hitting other property. That's going to be another deductible choice there as well. What about the embellishments? Do you have what they call repair replace? Some companies, if you have a brand new car, you can get repair replace coverage on it, and for the first year or more, depending on the company, you could get your vehicle completely replaced brand new, like kind and quality, for a short period of time. If your vehicle is considered a total loss, you might want to keep that. You also might want to keep loan lease coverage, which would cover the difference between your loan on the vehicle and the value of the vehicle if it's considered a total loss. Rental reimbursement, roadside assistance, the list kind of goes on and on. So many factors to consider beyond just the price.
So, my host for the North Country Trader couldn't be here because his engine blew up.
Ooh.
What kind of coverage would take care of that?
So, depending on what caused the engine to blow up. So, if it was just mechanical failure, really not going to be anything on an auto policy. There are a couple of companies that have mechanical breakdown on them, but that's very few and far between, which may be able to cover it. But if something happened where the engine caught fire or something like that, and that's what caused the vehicle to not be drivable, then it's possible there would be a comprehensive claim. Now, remember, comprehensive covers fire, covers flood, too, which most people don't realize. If your vehicle is parked in an area that gets inundated with water and damages it, you could have some coverage. So while your house doesn't have flood coverage, your vehicle does, if you have comprehensive coverage. So not sure if there would have been any coverage there. And then and another good sideline question to that is, okay, so the vehicle, the engine blew up, it was non-drivable. Maybe that person had rental reimbursement on their policy. Would that be triggered? The answer to that, sadly, is if it's not a covered loss, no, there would be no rental reimbursement because that's only going to cover you if you're in a covered loss.
Wow.
Yeah. At some point in these conversations, I usually pause and say, I promise I'm not making this up. This is not coming just off the top of my head. This is really how it works. So,
right. So, okay, I had a question. It
completely
slipped my mind.
It must have been good. So, but another thing to think about, too, is how you pay. All right? So companies all offer now a pay in full discount. So if you pay your auto insurance in full, you're going to realize a nice little savings between the different companies. It can really vary greatly. I've seen companies give a $50 to a $75 pay in full discount, with other companies that be maybe a few $100s. So look at that if you have the ability to pay in full. But the other easier option is to look at automatic payments. Companies have introduced paying automatically with a credit card recently. That's probably been the past year or two. You can avoid a lot of installment fees if you do automatic payments out of a checking account. So there's other ways to try to mitigate your expense on your auto insurance.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I go six months.
Pay it in full.
Pay in full.
Yep.
I save a little bit of money.
And you don't have to worry about payments for a few months, which is awfully nice as well.
Yeah. And I'm covered.
Yeah, and you're covered. And in this day and age, make sure you have all the credits that are available to you. Some companies give you a non-smoking credit. So if you don't smoke, you might get a non-smoking credit. Check to see if the company you're with offers any group discounts. Make sure the kids have, if they have good grades, make sure you're getting the good student discount if they're on your policy. Driving training, even us can take driver classes and get some sort of a credit on our policy. So there's so many different ways to try to bring your costs down, or at least keep it in check in these interesting times.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I did notice, though, that in the newer cars now, they don't even come with an ashtray.
No.
Or a cigarette lighter.
Nothing. No. The window still goes down, though.
The window still goes down. That's it. That's what you got.
Yep. There you go. So but just some things to think about if you're shopping, because it's easy to have price be the predominant thing that you're focusing on. But I always warn people, it's great to save money, but not at a cost to your protection. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for Good Policies this morning. Looks like we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for stopping by and sharing that with us. But before we go, I just want to ask you, how did your event at the Moose Lodge go?
Moose Lodge event for NEK Can went fantastic. We had a good crowd braving the cold temperatures that night, so I want to thank them for that. And I want to thank the LI Viking hockey team for raising a bunch of money for us, too. Really some awesome stuff. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Mike, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Sounds good.
That's Mike Barrett from the Barrett Insurance Agency right here on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. Oops.